Since Ahri is my favorite League of Legends champion, and I've been waiting for this reveal for quite some time, I thought I would do something a little bit different for this reveal. Traditionally, when a new card is revealed or when new cards are revealed, I see them during the day. They usually come out around my lunch break. And so I'll be scrolling through Twitter on my lunch break. I'll see the new cards. Sometimes I might post like a quick take or something. And then I go back to work. And I have to wait until I'm off of work to film my videos, which is also why they usually come out so late in the day, like this one. However, this time I did not look ahead of time. Now, I did see the reveals yesterday because of some tech issues. I couldn't cover those. We're going to cover those at the end of the video. But I have waited all day to see Ahri. I have not peeked. I've avoided spoilers. I have had some friends try to tag me and stuff, and I haven't looked. So I'm going to go to Twitter. We're going to see the reveals for the first time, or at least for me the first time. And then you'll get actual true quick takes from me, because normally I've kind of marinated on things and thought about them throughout the day. And then that's why I'm able to talk about like decks that I expect those cards to be in or ways that you could use the card. This time around, it's just straight up, you know, old school reaction YouTube content, I guess, which is not something that I normally do. But here we go. We're gonna go to Twitter. We're going to go to the Legends of Runeterra Twitter. Hey, look, we follow each other. That's so nice of them to follow me. All right, we're going to scroll down. And, oh, we actually apparently have patch notes as well. It says a couple of off-cadence card updates. Well. So, again, as I said, let's take a look. Yes, we knew about Faded. We know about Path of Champions. Okay, so here's the card updates. I guess we're going to cover those as well. We're going to see Ahri in a moment, but I didn't realize that we also got this info today. Poppy being nerfed, it looks like, from a 4-3 to a 3-3. Okay, so survivability stays the same, just doesn't trigger on larger units right out of the gate. That does not change much about her, in my opinion, because most of the time, the units that you've played on rounds 1 through 3 are likely small enough to still get her buff anyway. With the addition of the new Explorer, she's probably going to come down as a 4-4 anyway. So I don't think this is that big of a deal. She'll still see a ton of play, but it's also warranted. Obviously, Poppy has been incredibly strong. Young Witch, base stats back to a 1-1. So it was a good run while it lasted. This makes sense. I think she's still playable. I was playing her back when she was a 1-1. So when they took her to a 1-2, I was like, okay. Region road updates, personalization stuff. Oh, we got, hello. All right, so Ahri card back, like that's going to be a slam dunk for me. Ahri board, this is going to be a snap buy for me. And I can tell I've been playing too much like Ruined King and Bilgewater themed things lately, because this is very clearly Ahri here. And then this is very clearly like her tails, but my brain sees this as a mouth, right? Like my brain sees this is the bottom tooth, and then this is the top tooth, and this here is like the eye. And there's like some sort of like a sea monster thing that's just like trying to eat Ahri. That's what my brain sees here. So I think it's been too much time in Bilgewater, but Tristana, I like this. This is an Ahri skin. I'm already getting Ahri skins. I dig it. Poor Ahri. Braum. Oh. I hope that's his level up animation. I hope this is Santa Braum and that's the level up animation, because that's fantastic. Okay, so pretty short patch notes overall, right? The rest is cosmetic stuff. Big bundle. What's in this bundle? The board, the skin, the Heartbreaker emotes, card back. Okay, well, this is everything I needed. I don't know if I want to give up my Vi icon though. I'm currently rocking the Vi one. But this is nice. This is snap buy for me. This is nice for me. I'm not even going to look and see how much it is. I don't want to know. I'm just going to end up paying for it. There's no point in looking. I'm going to pay for it. But this is an Ahri video, so I need to get to the actual Ahri reveals. Is that it? Oh, and there's the video. Okay, so we're gonna do the video here.
The hunt eternal.
I know it's probably going to be not the best quality because it's going to be all grainy or whatever. But
that the hunt does not consume you.
All right, so she's a 2-3.
Wish it so.
Tempest style, wind form.
Okay. And she jumped positions instead of being recalled there. That's interesting.
I'm one of the good guys, but not that good.
Funny. I was going to say the same. Flight steps.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
As again, somebody who's played a lot of Ruined King lately, I'm actually kind of digging these interactions between her and Miss Fortune.
But not to hide.
This is one of the cards that was revealed yesterday. Okay.
I bring change.
My search is over. Now
Like
I
the
hunt.
charm effect.
The world's heart beats
Level up
with
looks
mine.
neat. Wonder if the skin has a different level up. I assume not, because only Braum had the little video. Charm. Oh, so it looks like I was not that far off. I had mentioned that either her having Challenger or the ability to grant something vulnerable were likely ways that you can manifest her charm skill. I will admit,
Start running.
I'm a little bit disappointed that she is part of the recall mechanic. So I'm hoping that her and the other cards revealed
The wind will watch your back.
Right.
are a good enough
Huggy.
payoff. Like, sincerely.
Victory at any cost.
Sincerely
No more
hope that.
Hello, my prey.
It's interesting that she's changing positions. I haven't actually like paid enough attention to see the card. I assume that she's like a support card that swaps positions with stuff but also recalls them. That's what it looks like.
Remember this moment.
All right, yeah, we're gonna see all of this in a moment. But I already, even just skimming that there, I already saw some potential bangers. All right. That's weird that they didn't put the Ahri one first. Normally the Ahri thing would be here. The champions are first and then the support stuff is second. So I guess we're starting here. All right, gang. Here we go. Ahri. 2 cost 2/3 Ionia. Has quick attack. On attack, the first time I attack strike. That's an interesting phrasing. It's the first time that's been highlighted like that. So traditionally they'll say like strike or strike while attacking, but now it looks like they are keywording the phrase attack strike, which I don't hate. Anytime you can keyword stuff and make it repeatable and kind of give players, you know, hey, this is something that we are going to focus on. This is something you should pay attention to. So here they highlight it. I'm kind of a fan, but let's get back on track here. Attack. The first time I attack strike, swap me with the ally to my right, then recall it. So it's not like a true support effect, but it's the actual support effect, but it's only one time. So the reason I say it's not a true support effect is because it doesn't have the support keyword. So cards that say like when I'm supported are not going to be triggered from this the way that I am interpreting it, but it still functions very similarly in that you need Ahri to the left of whatever it is that you want the trigger on. And so your attack order matters. And other than that, just a 2/3 for 2 with quick attack and gives you a bit of an engine. So that is interesting. I don't hate it, I guess, in theory, right out of the gate. Her level up condition is that we have recalled 6 or more units this game, so she doesn't have to see them. That's nice. I love the art. The art is great. Level 2 Ahri gets the standard +1/+1 and picks up elusive. So I'm digging that. I did mention that I had felt like Ahri could be a champion that you could represent with elusiveness. If you go back and kind of listen to me talk about all the different ways that you could have Ahri, you know, show up in Legends of Runeterra. I had talked about either having Challenger or granting vulnerability. I had talked about maybe you give her elusiveness or maybe lifesteal because of her passive effect and so on and so forth. So here we still have the quick attack, but we also get elusive. When you recall an ally, reduce its cost by 1 is just like a standard aura when she's leveled up. So this helps with the main complaint that I have about the recall archetype, which was, again, the mana and time investment, so that you have to play the unit, pay the mana to recall the unit, then replay the unit. And while it's only 1, if you're doing that all the time, that will add up. So maybe that's enough to help offset it, but that was one of my primary complaints about the archetype. So this is already a step in the right direction. And then on attack, it's now each time I attack strike, swap me with the ally to my right, then recall it. So at that point, it is like what I had kind of come to understand in the video. So she becomes kind of like a machine gun engine. So Droplet is nuts. I can't imagine a world where they were testing Ahri and testing the unnerfed version of Droplet, because that feels absurd to me. Droplet's probably still going to be run in any Ahri deck, I think, at this point, because you want that draw engine as well. But that really stands out to me, gang, as something that could have been broken. And obviously we've received a couple of new cards that are going to help with the recall mechanic, and some new cards that we want to recall. There's also plenty of existing ones that we had potentially wanted to recall in the past. So this is interesting, but is it enough? I want to know how many cards am I running that I'm planning on recalling, so that I get to the point where I want Ahri to be fully on the left, right? Like, I'm trying to envision a world where I truly want Ahri to recall like 4 or 5 units in a combat round, something ridiculous. I'm not sure that's the case, which is rather interesting because she's got that support-like effect, but you also are going to have to send your attacks in very specific ordering in order, I think, to best make use of her, which is neat. That's, I think, going to actually kind of raise the skill cap on how you can use her effectively. That's assuming she's used effectively at all. I'm not necessarily convinced by what I've seen just now that it will be enough, but there's still some other cards to cover, and I have to talk about the cards from yesterday, so maybe there's enough juice there. Obviously, Kennen helps a lot. Kennen and level 2 Ahri, for example, are a match made in heaven, because you're going to get free cost Kennens over and over, which is rather nice. And that's going to mean marks and all sorts of stuff. But outside of that, so that's the other part, right? I had said before that I really hoped that Ahri was not pigeonholed into like a single archetype. So I'm trying to not immediately jump on the Ahri Kennen bandwagon. Yes, I'm going to build that deck, and we're going to test it out. But in my mind, I'm trying to think about like, what are the other ways that I would potentially want to try Ahri in a different archetype? So I don't know at the moment anyway, but it is something that I think going to be thinking about. So her champion spell is obviously Charm. So we have Ahri's Charm and Charm. This is a 2-cost focus speed spell. Recall an ally to give an enemy vulnerable this round. I really wish this was Grant vulnerable. And the reason that I say that is because this is you're kind of paying a premium here for this spell. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping Charm was going to be a little bit more impactful than this, because if you compare Charm to like the spell you get from Monastery, that's a focus speed 1-cost spell to just recall your own ally. Here you're spending 1 more mana, and it's just a card you run in your deck, so it's not even something you're getting from like a recurring engine, and you still get to recall an ally, but you give an enemy vulnerable this round. So this means you have to have at least 2 units on the board for this to be worth your time. If you really want to just recall it your own unit, then you're paying a premium to do so. It's not efficient at that point. There might be scenarios where you only have 1 unit left, and that's what you have to do. And so even though it won't feel great, it could still very well be the right play. But I think the normal intended play pattern is that Charm is useful when you already have at least 2 units on the board, and you're trying to recall 1 for some sort of effect, and you're going to use the other one to attack into that, because this is focus speed, and so you're not likely going to be doing this and then replaying something, though you could. But again, I think the intended play pattern here is before your attack, you give something vulnerable, you recall a unit, maybe you're getting that concussive palm back into your hand, and then you're sending your attackers and you're pulling a unit. So that just feels like an awful lot for a challenge effect, right? Like, I'd rather just play a unit that has challenge, I guess, but I don't know. Maybe the recall effects are worth it. That feels like an awful lot of investment for Charm to be worth the payoff. But this is interesting. Ahri and Kennen are for sure tempting and tantalizing, and I think there's some stuff to do there. I think the real places where Ahri's going to shine is when you go through your deck builder and you're looking at all of the things that you want to re-summon, right? So like, what is it that I want to play and have bounce back and re-summon? So if you're doing like the Ahri and Kennen thing, technically you can still pair them with whatever region you want because Kennen's in Ionia. But if you want to include some of the Bandle City stuff, then even just bouncing some old favorites like Conchologist over and over again feels pretty powerful as far as your cards go, but then you have to have the resources to pay for all of that. And so that's where I keep going back and forth on it. But there were other cards over here, so let's take a look at these real quick. Wind Singer. This is a 6-cost 4/3 follower in Ionia. On play, recall a unit. And then this skill Gust here is the thing that goes on the stack when you play Wind Singer. So this is something that can be responded to, and that's very relevant because we have counter spells that can target skills. And we got a new one as well. So again, we're going to talk about the cards that were revealed yesterday at some point, but this is okay. So if you consider, Will of Ionia, I think is going to be your natural comparison point. You're spending 2 mana for a essentially, mind you, slow speed Will of Ionia, because you can only play it at times where you had the same priority as you did for slow speed, right? So think of it as it's a slow speed Will of Ionia that for 2 extra mana, you get to get a 4/3 body. Now there's no keywords or stat modifiers. It's just a vanilla 4/3, but that's not terrible. The downside is that it does cost 6, mind you, but there are some decks where this, as weird as it sounds, could actually be a great play in some sort of like tempo aggressive deck where if you're worried about their big blockers coming down on 5 or 6 and then you just put them back in their hand, then that could set up some good open attacks for you. I'm just thinking, like, if it's round 6 and you don't have the attack token and your opponent plays, like a big dragon or Cythria or something, and then you respond with Wind Singer, and then, both players pass, you go to the next round, now you get that open attack with whatever board you had before plus the 4/3. So I can see some utility there, but I don't think this is an all-star card by any stretch of the imagination. And if I'm being honest, I don't think that it's going to be a 3 of even in decks that want to run it. And the decks that want to run it, it's going to be situational and probably a bit of a meta call. So like a faster go wide meta, this is just not good enough, right? But if you're ever finding yourself in a slower, more mid-rangey meta, so if dragons are popular again for whatever reason, then this is a great card into those or similar style decks. But I think right now, just because of the way the meta has been, this feels a little rough. It's a great answer for something like Scion. If you run into Scion, they drop the Scion, and you answer with the Wind Singer, then that's a great tempo play. But you have to be able to capitalize on that tempo as well. So anyway, that's enough about Wind Singer. The next card is Sinon, Thousand-Tailed. This is a 6-cost 3/5 follower with no keywords in Ionia. So this had better have an amazing ability. When I'm summoned, draw 2 and give all other allies +1/+1 this round. So the bonus is only this round, and it's all other, and this is 6 mana for a 3/5. But when I'm summoned, draw 2. That is a very attractive set of words to me. I feel like this is a card that they probably tested at a lower cost or something, and it only said draw 2, and then in testing it was busted. So it probably used to cost like 4 or something. It probably was like a 2/4 for 4 that was when I'm summoned draw 2, and then that was likely busted or whatever. And so then they were like, all right, well, let's jack up the cost, and then they had to think about a way to justify jacking up the cost, so they went and gave it these other abilities. But the reality is, as I'm looking at this, the give all other allies +1/+1 this round is not as relevant as it likely sounds, because in true go wide decks, you're not probably running a ton of your recall effects, and you're probably running better board wide buffs. And so the real appeal here would be that it's a draw 2. Like if you're coming from the Elder Scrolls Legends, this would be like your Moose and the top end of some sort of aggressive deck, I guess. So maybe there's some value there, but I feel like there's probably better options. And then if you're in a recall heavy deck, right? So if you want to play the sort of deck where you're bouncing this to get value, or if you're maybe pairing with Shadow Isles to do those amazing flicker things or copy things, right? Like this could be a great target for something like Memories, where you just copy this and play another version and you draw more cards and buff your squad. I could see, you know, if there's ever an aggressive Ionia, like half elusive, half just like fearsome, aggressive Shadow Isles list, I could see this being the top end in a deck like that, where you're just using this to refill your hand, buff your go wide board, you know, buff those spiders, buff whatever. And then you're also going to run the Shadow Isle stuff that copies this so that you can just keep refilling your hand. I could see something like this being okay there. But in a standard recall deck, which is, I think, what they're trying to sell you on here, because it's being revealed with Ahri and with the other recall stuff, this feels really expensive for what it does, because you're going to spend 6 for a 3/5. You draw 2. That part's nice. But in a recall deck, you're probably not hurting for cards anyway, because you're going to be getting all these triggers and whatever. And then you also buff your board, but you're playing a recall deck, right? So you're probably playing the same 1 to 3 units over and over again for like the entirety of the game. So it's, you know, probably going to be granting +1/+1, maybe +2/+2 on a good day. So you're going to get like, you know, a temporary 5-7 worth of stats. But then afterwards, you're, you know, again, on rounds where your opponent could be playing Cythria, you're playing a 3/5 with no keywords. Now, you get to draw some cards, but those cards are going to be needed to offset the fact that you just played a 3/5 with no keywords. You played a vanilla 3/5. And like I said, you might have a board to take advantage of the +1/+1, but I have a feeling that in decks where you're trying to go wide, you probably should have just played Poppy 2 turns earlier. So I'm so torn. The art is fantastic, and I want to like this card, and I will absolutely play around with it in testing. The draw 2 on summon is huge. Don't sleep on it. Like, I think that there will end up being a deck at some point in time that this finds a home in. There are certain things in the game that when you see them, you say to yourself, like, that's just a really powerful effect. This is one of them. Just straight up on summon, you're drawing 2 and doing stuff on a body. That is good. It's just whether or not you can do it consistently enough, and whether or not you can do it at the right times to make an impact on the game and all of those things. Like in the current meta with the current card set, I think this one might struggle a bit, but there could be a world where this ends up being really, really powerful for sure. And like I said, I could see some decks trying to include it on the top end in a way where you're just using it as your top end of your curve hand refiller, the way Moose used to be used. So there is some potential, but I do also feel like this card probably existed in other versions before it made it to here, and it probably got nerfed a few times. All right, the last card that was revealed with Ahri, anyway, is this Children of the Forest. This is an 8-cost slow spell, so it had better be amazing. It says, summon ephemeral copies of the 3 strongest followers that I've recalled this game. So you spend 8 mana and you get 3 ephemeral units of the 3 strongest followers you've recalled this game. So a lot of things to really, I think, take note of and process here. It's strongest, so it's going to go by attack power more than anything. It's followers, so you're not going to be getting your cool champions, or at least copies of them. But chances are if you're playing this, you're probably playing like Ahri or Kennen anyway, and so they're not have likely to have been some of the strongest units you've played throughout the course of the game. And you have to have recalled them, right? So you have to have played 3 things that are worth an 8 mana investment, that are strong enough and have a cool enough effect to make you spend this 8 mana on a slow spell to get them. Because like in my mind, I'm trying to compare this to like the Harrowing, right? Where Harrowing, you are potentially getting 6 units, and it's just 1 mana more. Where here you're getting 3 units and it has to be, you know, your strongest, but you're getting 3 units that had to have been recalled. There's still ephemeral. I don't know how I feel about this. I suppose like the train of thought here is probably that if you are playing units that you are trying to focus on recalling, they likely have very strong summon effects. And so if you're putting this in that archetype, then that offsets the weird diversion, I guess, from harrowing. Because like I said, harrowing costs 1 more, and it just feels, at least on the surface, incredibly more powerful than this. But harrowing also requires your units to have died, where here, if you're playing the recall game, you might not have had a lot of units that have died because you are trying to protect them anyway. And as I said before, they probably have some pretty strong summon effects or comes into play effects, and you'll be triggering those. There is also, I think, just the case to be considered about, you can make the ephemeral copies, and then if you have other cheap recall effects, you could just bounce them back to your hand as well to get additional cards. I don't know. I like the art. It's just like Thousand Tailed. I like the art, and I can see the potential for powerful plays. I can see the potential for this being a very powerful card, but I feel like this one requires more effort. Excuse me. My brain is trying to go faster than my mouth right now, so I'm trying to mentally slow myself down. So I feel like this is going to require more effort and more deck building and more investment to get a similar payoff to something like harrowing for only 1 mana cheaper. And I think that's my initial concern. If this gets run, I imagine this is probably like a 1 of at most, maybe a 2 of if you really want to go all in on some cool combo. I will admit right now, because again, normally I marinate on these all day. This is like just knee-jerk reaction charmer. I will admit there's probably some crazy 3-card combos that maybe you can assemble, and that would be the appeal here because you're very specifically getting those 3 cards. So I would have to look through the deck builder, right? If there is a very specific like 3-card combo that you're aiming for, then maybe that's the case. But again, the fact that you have to have played the card and then recalled it is a bit interesting to me. So there's a lot of old cards that I think are going to need to be looked at once again, kind of revisited. You know, the matriarch, for example, that was revealed a while ago, and I was like excited at the time because I was like, hey, Ahri's coming, Ahri's in this art, and that was, you know, a whole expansion ago, is very clearly something designed for this archetype. So I think that's going to be worth a revisit, and I think that there's a few others, but I hesitate to say that Children of the Forest is good without going through the deck builder. I think right now my initial reaction is that unless there is a really good 3-card combo that you're specifically trying to set off, it's not feeling great to me at the moment when compared to cards like harrowing anyway. But that's it for the actual like Ahri reveals. But I did say that I was going to cover the cards that were revealed yesterday because I wanted to cover them then, and we had the tech issue. So I've actually got those ready to go. Bam! Because, you know, I did look at those yesterday. It's not the same as today where I was like specifically trying to do the reaction thing, but we're going to cover these now. So yesterday we had the Mourned. This was one of the ones I liked the most from yesterday. This is a 1-cost 2/1 elusive unit in Ionia. On Nexus Strike, Recall Me. So this is kind of like the Ionian version of, what is it, the Flight from Targon, but instead of it going into your deck and you draw a card as like it's replacing itself, this just recalls itself. So you always know what you're getting, but because it's a recall, that also helps with a number of effects. Obviously, we now know with Ahri as well. So this is one that I could see being okay, right? Because like in the grand scheme of things, this is very often just like a reusable, you know, 1-cost 2 damage burn spell, right? So I like this. All right, next up we have Woodland Keeper. This is a 3-cost 3/2. When I'm summoned, give me +1/+0 and elusive this round. This is in a similar vein as the Mourned. I don't like it as much because it doesn't have the built-in recall. So one of the reasons I like the Mourned is it's cheap and the self-recall is built into it. Woodland Keeper here, a 4-2 elusive for 3 is great stats, but you get that for 1 round, and then after that you have to spend the mana to bounce it and have a card or an effect that does it, and then you also have to spend the mana to replay it. And I don't know if that's good enough to make the cut. We'll have to wait and see. A 4-2 elusive is fine, and it's aggressive, but there's also a number of elusive units that also cost 2 that you can just drop in front of this. And so you're losing that mana cost tempo game at that point. So I don't know. My gut instinct tells me it's not very good, though. And sadly enough, that's the same with this next card. So next up, we have Pathless Ancient. This is a 4-cost 4/3 in Ionia, and this says it costs 2 less if you've recalled a unit this round. So you get a 2-cost 4/3 if you've recalled a unit, but again, it's just vanilla. There's no keywords, no comes into play effects, nothing else fancy. As we've seen in the past, any of these kind of like vanilla overstated cards that are understated if you meet a requirement are just not good enough to make the cut in most decks. So this is likely just going to end up being like an expeditions card. And that's really all I have to say about that. So we're going to talk about God Willow Seedling. This is one of the cards that I liked as well. This I think is a really neat like deck building card. So this is a 3-cost landmark. On play, you recall an ally to summon an ephemeral copy of it. And then you also get a countdown 2 of summon another ephemeral copy of the card that you recalled. So you spend 3, the landmark comes down, you recall an ally, and you summon a copy of it. And then you also 2 turns later get another one. So you get the recall part built in, you get to summon a copy. If you're summoning a copy, then you're also getting summon effects triggers. So it's like we just saw that draw 2, for example. Yes, 6 is a lot to invest, but if you are using that to continue to draw a bunch of cards, you know, maybe you have enough to offset it. But there's a number of other cards with great summon effects or comes into play effects where continuing to get this kind of value over and over is nice. But I think specifically you want cards with summon as opposed to play effects. So like the 6 cost, 4/3 body, I recall a unit, that's a play effect, right? And if you play the Seedling here, you're not going to get that effect because you are summoning an ephemeral copy, so it's only going to trigger those summon effects. But this is still, I think, a really powerful deck building tool. I'm excited to theory craft with it, and it's one of the better cards from the recall like package that I think we've gotten so far. So I'm a fan of this one. And then the last 2 cards, I know there's 3 here, but it's really 2. The last 2 cards that were revealed yesterday. One is Memory's Cloak. This one is very wordy for what it is. This is a 3-cost fast spell from Ionia. It says pick an ally being targeted by enemy fast spells, slow spells, or skills with only 1 target. Stop them. So this is really interesting. This is like a fixed deny. So if you were not around when Legends of Runeterra first launched, there was a time when deny used to cost 3 mana. And it was one of the most played cards like in the game. And this is now very interesting because this is a deny, but it has to specifically be for targeted effects. So deny was as powerful as it was because it could shut down like War Mother's Call, but for 3 mana, which was your entire spell mana. Memory's Cloak does not stop War Mother's Call, for example, or even just Avalanche or Withering Wail, right? It has to be a targeted effect, but it does stop any targeted effect that includes skills. So again, think about our new 4/3 friend with the recall ability. So it does stop that. Also, it stops all of them as long as they are targeted skills. So this is very much like Fizz's ability, but on a card. And so what I mean by the like all of them if they're targeted, if your opponent plays 3 Mystic Shots on your 6/6 trying to kill it, Memory's Cloak actually stops all of them because they're all targeted abilities targeting your 1 ally with 1 target, right? So it does specifically say with only 1 target. So I actually think this is not as good as Fizz's ability. Now that I've said that out loud, the wording here very specifically says pick an ally being targeted by enemy fast spells, slow spells, or skills with only 1 target. And so the primary difference here is that this will not stop like a Make It Rain. If your Make It Rain is hitting your Nexus, one of your units, and one of your other units, and you're trying to save like the third unit, you can't use Memory's Cloak there because it's not only got one target, would be the way this is worded. So it's not quite the same. This would stop 3 Mystic shots targeting one unit, but it does not stop a Make It Rain that's also targeting the same unit. So that is important to keep in mind. The other card that was revealed yesterday was 9 lives. Just as far as playability goes, Memory's Cloak will find a home. 3 cost deny was fantastic at the time. I think that this will still find a home. It'll probably replace where Nopify is in a lot of decks. So all the decks that like run a 1 of Nopify will probably switch to Memory's Cloak. I don't think that this will become the 3 of in every Ionia deck that Deny used to be in, because it does not stop the non-targeted stuff. So you're still not stopping Avalanche. You're not stopping War Mother's Call. You're not stopping any of those things, right? Like you're not getting the same level of versatility. So this is like a fixed version of Deny. This will find a home, but it will not be an ubiquitous 3 of in every Ionia deck the way Deny used to be. So there's my quick assessment. All right, the last card revealed yesterday was 9 lives. This one is interesting. So this is a 5-cost burst spell that just very simply reads Summon a Liminal Guardian. Okay. Liminal Guardian is a 5-cost 3/2, no keywords, but when I'm summoned, summon a random 1-cost follower from your regions. When I'm recalled, transform me into 9 lives. So this is like Concussive Palm, but Concussive Palm is a fast speed spell that gives you a 3/2 and stun something. This is a burst speed spell that gives you a 3/2 and also summons a 1-cost follower. Now you might be saying like, this looks awful because like, why wouldn't I just run Palm? You get the same body and you stun something. And I would say, well, you're right. Like that's a very powerful effect, but also this is, I think, meant to serve a completely different issue, a completely different niche. Because this is burst speed and because this also creates another follower, if you have anything where you can bounce this back to your hand, yes, it's expensive, right? But you have an endless supply of chump blockers, essentially. And if you come from like a Magic the Gathering background, for example, if you can just continually pump out cheap blockers and get away with it, then sometimes you can buy yourself a lot of time. Now, Legends of Runeterra is a bit of a different beast for Magic. There's a lot more units with like Overwhelm here and so on and so forth. But that's, I think, why this is costed the way that it is. This is probably, again, a card that, if I had to guess, probably cost 4 in testing and they had to bump it to 5 because it was too strong at 4. Because, again, it looks very benign. No keywords. It's only a 3/2. But it's also summon effect, right? So as we're thinking about cards like our God Willow Seedling, for example, right? If you play 9 lives and then you play the Seedling's going to turn it into a 9 lives again, but also make your 3/2 that's ephemeral. And that's also going to summon another 1/1 follower. And then 2 turns later, you're going to get another ephemeral one, which is going to summon another 1/1. And you're still also going to have that one in your hand that you played that you can replay at burst speed. And so you get to this situation where your opponent, as long as you have the mana open, always has to account for, like, what if they burst in a Liminal Guardian and block? And even just knowing your opponent has it means that they kind of have to play around that as well. If you've got the mana open, it's the same reason why I think Risen Mists was criminally undervalued when it was revealed, myself included, because we weren't giving enough emphasis to the power of a burst speed blocker, right? That idea of I can just slam down a unit. Same with attacking, right? If you're playing in a control mirror or whatever, and you wipe the board and both of you are out of mana, it comes back to your turn. Normally, you're kind of resetting the tempo and it becomes this like, I play a unit, they play a unit, we go back and forth or whatever. But this allows you to burst in 2 units, right? This is a burst speed, play 2 units, and then like you could be swinging with them. So I think it's better than it looks. I think that 5 is still kind of expensive, but I think this would probably be busted at 4. So I think this is the fairest version we'll see of this. And I think that it is better than it looks on the surface. But unfortunately, I think it's also too fair at the current cost to be like massively impactful. Like, I think this is good enough to be run in certain lists, but probably not good enough to like warp the meta by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, Liminal Guardian. I like the design, and I like that it's trying to do a very similar thing to Concussive Palm, but in a completely different way, right? Both are giving you a 3/2 body from a spell that incentivizes you to recall it so that you can reuse the spell. One gives you the stun, one gives you a permanent like board addition in the 1-cost follower. So I dig it. I like that they are just finding different ways to represent that style of play and give that identity to Ionia. But that is it between yesterday's reveals and today's reaction to Ahri. I'm very excited. It's so weird. Like, I'm very excited and also disappointed, because I had said a long time ago, and I meant it, I didn't want her to be part of the recall archetype because I didn't want her to be pigeonholed into deck building. I was hoping that she would be as versatile in this game as she is in League, where you can play her in a number of different ways, and I wanted to try her out in a number of different decks. I do not think she is that way. I will definitely try to build her in decks that are not just her and Kennen, though I think that's the natural fit. I will probably try her in a couple of other things, but she is definitely not a champion that you can just like slide into any list, right? I was secretly hoping she was as versatile as Vi. Vi is like my go-to. If I don't know what to do, I'll throw in like a one of Vi, and it just works, right? Because Vi is just that versatile. Even when she was first released, Vi was just the splash in Demacia lists. If you were not around at the time when Vi was released, she used to have 5 health. And it was like mono Demacia Bannerman mid-range with 3 copies of Vi. And like that was your list. Because she was just that good and also that versatile. And I was kind of hoping that Ahri would be something similar. She's very much not the case. She is a build around me champion. But I'm going to enjoy playing her. She's my favorite champion. Dying to go deck build with her. And this has been a very long video for me because of the reactions. And because I didn't have time to like prepare my thoughts. And so by the time that this is edited, and actually I probably won't edit much. You know what? I don't have time to edit much. Actually, yeah. So by the time this is posted, we'll put it that way. There's going to be very limited editing here. We're just going to put it all up. But by the time this is posted, I will likely be getting around to go live because it's early access day and I have early access. I was just working during the day, so my day has been like working, filming this, posting this, and then hopefully I'll be going live and we will play some Ahri and have some fun. And if you're around, then hope to see you there. But if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching as always, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.